Preparing the garden requires careful thought into the crops selected and the movement of the sun across the sky. The taller plants should be planted at the rear of the garden in order to avoid shading the other crops, and the shortest in the front. We also need to consider the drainage of the system. This needs to be taken into account if you want to retrieve excess water. We begin by creating a 25 centimeter wide channel and then line it with plastic. The height of the trough is 15 centimeters in depth, where the water will accumulate. Using a broom handle and level, we make sure the trough is level for even distribution of the water. We then fill the trough with some stones. Do not use round river stones as they tend to roll and turn. This will cause the stones to move out of the trough over time. When complete, fill the trough with water to assure even distribution. Next, using a 3/4 inch irrigation pipe, we place an end cap on one end, sealing the pipe in the ground. Using a small 3/32 inch drill bit, a hole is drilled about every 10 to 15 centimeters that will slowly drip into the system. Then lay the feed pipe on one side of the trough. Due to temperature differences, a drip feed prevents shocking the plant and potentially damaging the crops. Using the same irrigation pipe, we leave the end open. About every 10 centimeters, we drill a hole roughly 10 millimeters in diameter. Using a drainage sock, we tie a knot on one end and insert the tube into the drainage sock. We then strap the sock to the pipe to hold it in place, but is not necessary. The drainage sock allows for the flow of water out of the trough and prevents dirt from accumulating in the tube that would plug the drain. Then lay this pipe on the opposite side of the trough as the feed. Cooler water will then flow from the feed and descend in the trough, and the warmer water will rise and flow out the drain. If the garden is uncovered and heavy rains occur, this drain will prevent flooding. Now cover both tubes completely with rocks and fill the trough to ensure the movement of water out of the drain pipes. Be sure the feed and drain pipe tubes are marked. Due to the small holes on the feed tubes, a filter is needed to prevent contaminants from entering the system and possibly plugging the holes. Additionally, the supply was mounted just above the bottom, so any sediment would fall to the bottom of the barrel and not enter into the system. Begin watering the system at sundown, and as the crops progress, more watering will be needed. Soon there will be an evening and morning feeding, and depending upon the daily heat, an afternoon flush is often needed. Watch the plants for signs of wilting. This indicates additional watering is needed. Sundown is the most critical time as water movement is amplified during this period of time. Okay, here you can see I'm laying the gravel over the top. Got the larger rocks in the bottom for water. Got a small little hole, 8 of them drilled in on this, about 1 every foot. Then I got my cloth over this guy. That's my drainage tube. Just covering it with the gravel to prevent the dirt from going on down and filling all the holes. And protruding out the end here, it's going to be my feed tube here. And this one here is my drain tube. Okay, what we're going to try with this garden here, so we're going to be supplying water in this tube. It's going to drain out this tube. And then it's going to go down into the ground and subterranean feed underneath, and all the extra water will go down, so it's actually going to recirculate with the earth. Should be no water loss with this concept. You can see I laid in some rock. The whole purpose of the rock is to give a place for the water to kind of sit. From there it'll trickle down and go right back into the earth. Okay, now on this drainage tube, what I did is I just went just a 1/16 of an inch small or larger bit. Put them all in line because it's going to drain down into my swell. So I needed to equally drain in there throughout the entire pipe. Now I'm going to cover it with that and then lay it in there. This guy got the end cap on there. You can see that through there. Then I just tied the end. Now when I'm going to do is bring it on up and strap it. Now you can see that I've got the holes on the marks here. So what I'm going to be able to do is be able to identify the direction of the holes as I lay it in by that marking. So all I'm going to do is zip tie it right to the end there. Now you can see I've got it slanted downward. I'm going to be able to just connect them with 2 elbows and be able to slant it in the direction that I want, so that basically I'm going to put the holes not directly down, but almost directly down. I don't want it filled with water and freezing and breaking during the winter. It's coming out the drain tube now. So what we're going to do is we're just going to hook it on. This is actually going to the underground and feeding underneath the ground there. A couple of these small valves, so when it gets totally full, it'll shut off. These are set by a timer right here. When this timer activates at 8:38, it fills it on up for 12 minutes. Goes into the top spigot, drains out the bottom one, comes out the bottom one. Drip feeds in, and then the extra comes on out. Just adding the adapters, and it's just going to be a hose connection. So when it's all finished, it'll look like that. Okay, now what I'm doing is filling these guys up. I had to seal the plastic on the inside. And here we got another one flowing, coming on out just fine. I have just the garden hose hooked up to it. Eventually I'm going to have it brought inside, teed off. Going to the 2 different barrels. They were both done the same. Go ahead and the injection here, shut off. This goes to a float valve inside. Right, and lowers. And here's the output, separate controls if I need. Shut off. It's a 50-gallon container. Now on the top, what I did is I cut a big hole so I could get the float mechanism in there. And then I just use silicone part of the cloth, seal it on up so rainwater can get into. And we got that underground tube going right underground here onto our timer. See how they're coming up in the raised garden already. Some of these are coming up pretty darn good. These are the potatoes.